All right. Well, hi, Nick. It's good to see you. Welcome to Spiritual Workout World and this 18-minute session, if you will. I'm going to actually set my little stopwatch here. And why don't you tell us what it is that you want to talk about spiritual workout wise, or what questions you have, or why are we here?
Wow, man. So that's a lot for 18 minutes, but we'll try to consolidate as much as possible. So my main focus is around intention setting, looking at belief structures, identifying limiting beliefs, those types of things. Because traditionally, anything I've done or wanted to do, I just do. And there may not be, it's just like, I want to go do X, and I'll just do it without really putting thought into it. It just becomes a thought in my mind. I want to do this, not based on feelings, usually just based on some type of activity or action that I want to do. But now I'm trying to understand a more full picture of why these things are things that I want to do, how to create intentions around overall, just things I enjoy doing, as well as things that I may be like dipping a toe into. So kind of understanding the way to set intentions, what goes into that, as well as, the things around beliefs of what drives that.
Okay, cool. And let me ask you this. And I think we're here because I know you dropped into the clinic the other day or recently, and we didn't have a lot of time. So I'm happy to have this conversation. I think it's fundamental to what we do in spiritual workout world. But let me just ask you this before we get started. Is this for you something like, let me explore this new area? Or is there something about the way things have been going that is for some reason not working the way it used to?
So more so the first, that I'm just trying to kind of expand thoughts around, how I'm living. Everything in general is going well. It's not, I haven't gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, shit's hitting the fan, I need to get things figured out. It's more so I've been living in this way, or the way that I do things have been, I guess, less mindfully intentional. There may be intentions that have driven some things, but not that I have an awareness of. More so that it's just like things that are playing out in my mind, but I don't have the full, like, I am doing this specifically because it's just I'm doing it. So getting a better understanding of that, which in turn would give me a better understanding of self, I guess is what I'm looking for. Because like I know what I like. I know things that I don't like. Do I know the reasons for both of those? Not necessarily. Maybe it's the way I was brought up. Maybe it's because thoughts around, like, I want to be in nature because it gets me out of my office, like whatever it may be. I don't really know. And I've never really been that, I guess, interested. I've always been like, I just do things and whatever happens, happens. And putting the thought in beforehand to really understand why was never really it's just like, oh, it's whatever I want to. It's not I'm not interested in knowing that, but now I feel like it's probably a good idea to know those things and get a better understanding of where I am now, and then also where I want to go, and how I can be better at doing that.
Okay. Well, that's great. And I'm happy to have you here. This is fantastic. So before we go any further, I could take you through some general kind of ways that we do it here in spiritual workout world, and then see if you have questions after that. Or would you rather start with a very specific question or two that you have now about any of this?
Let's start general, just because it'll be, as I'm trying to, I guess I've got a very structured thought pattern and mindset that I like to understand something fully, or as I can before getting into it, because it helps me set the foundation to then continue.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will do my best here to kind of give that foundation. The first thing that I'll say is what you're talking about, which is, I decide I want to do something and I do it, is pretty much the way virtually all of us who are over the age of 10 have learned to do things, right? And the way we kind of couch that in spiritual workout terms is there's an old consciousness and a new consciousness, an old way of doing things and a new way of doing things. The old way, if you ask me, and a lot of people like me, is pretty much dying. There's nothing wrong with it. We could spend the rest of our lives in the old ways, and many of us will, and that's fine. And yet it is kind of dying. A lot of those structures, a lot of the structures in the old consciousness have to do with right and wrong and good and bad and binary choices and linearity and duality and things like that. So for most of us in spiritual workout world, we're steeped in that old stuff. We're kind of reaching for this new way. And many of us really don't have any idea about it. So there are 3 concepts. If anybody's watching this, you can just go to spiritualworkout.com/concepts. There are 15 concepts that make up the spiritual workout practice that undergird it. And we're going to focus on 3 of them right now. And because I don't have a whiteboard, I use these little cards. So the first one is this idea that the law of attraction is always on. So every minute of every day, we're thinking things, we're feeling things, we're saying things, we're doing things. That all adds up to a vibration and a frequency, and then we attract more of that in. So mostly we've been doing that very haphazardly. So we create things that we don't really want. So here what we're doing is just choosing to create on purpose. Oh, I didn't know these were the rules of the game. I didn't know that's how it worked. I didn't know that all the anger and rage and frustration that I feel all the time is only creating more anger, rage, and frustration. Oh, now I know it, so I can go about it differently. So once we understand and buy off on the idea that the law of attraction is always on, well, then we get into the 2 areas that you've already talked about. We say, if I'm always getting more of what I'm thinking about and talking about and feeling, and I want to do that on purpose and then draw in things I actually want, we do that through what we call intentions. So oftentimes people have wishes, hopes, dreams, goals, aspirations, objectives, etc. I like to just take any of that, start there, and form it into a shiny, clear intention. And that is sort of like putting our foot on the gas of where we want to be. You mentioned limiting beliefs. Well, as soon as we put our foot on the gas of where we want to go, then we have all kinds of beliefs that come up that tell us what's possible, what isn't possible, and all of that. So law of attraction is always on. Foot on the gas of what we want, our intentions, and then what thoughts or ideas or beliefs do we have that sometimes act like our other foot on the brake at the same time. That here in spiritual workout world, what we then learn to do is keep our foot on the gas of where we want to go, full steam ahead. I'm living my best life. I'm happy and joyful, and I live where I want to live, and I make the money I want to make, and I do the work I want to do, and I have amazing relationships. And you can tell sometimes intentions are for physical things, sometimes they're for non-physical things, right? There's no right or wrong to any of it. So what we learn to do here is just keep our foot on the gas of that shiny, clear intention. And when we notice our other foot on the brake, limiting beliefs, my grandfather told me I'd never do this, society tells me it's not possible, all those things, we just learn to get our foot off the gas of that. So does this help focus you at all?
Sure. It does. And I've got a question back to the first concept you went over around law of attraction is always on. So I have a fundamental understanding of what that means. Whatever you put out in the universe is kind of what you're going to get back. At least that's what I think it is. And then you mentioned vibrations. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Because that's getting into, my partner, that she talks about that a lot, and I'm kind of like, oh, okay, and I'm supportive of it, but I don't really know exactly what specifically.
Okay, So here in spiritual workout world, with these 15 concepts, the one thing that I personally try not to do is teach the concepts. Mm-hmm. Where I come at, the reason spiritual workout exists is because people have been talking about these ideas being compassionate and law of attraction forever. I didn't make them up. I'm just the guy who's saying, wow, there's something to this. And when we sort of adhere to these ideas, things kind of line up and everything gets easier. So I'm also not personally overly scientific, and I'm not even remotely a skeptic. So for me, I just go to the bottom line and then test it out. It's like, oh yeah, this seems to make sense. So regardless of the science and the difference between frequency and vibration and energy, the idea is everything is energy, right? Okay. So this pencil vibrates at some frequency, which is probably different than this hard drive.
Sure. Okay.
Right? Which is probably different from me, which is possibly different from you, right? So for a human being, our frequency or our vibration, the point at which we start to attract stuff in is made up of how we think. So if I'm thinking I am happy, that frequency is way different from I'm ashamed, right? Okay. So all I can say is generally there's higher, faster frequencies and lower, slower frequencies. We don't judge any of it. We just know that if we're putting out all kinds of different things, we're going to get all kinds of different things. If we on purpose get serious about setting an intention where we really kind of organize our thoughts. I'm thinking all these different things about possible career, but okay, now I'm doing this spiritual workout approach or just engaging law of attraction in a conscious manner. So how do I do that? Well, then I have to just keep thinking about, I'm in the right and perfect job for me. You don't have to figure out how it's going to happen. You don't have to figure out when, and those are big issues, but they're part of the process. So it's like, oh, if I don't have to figure that out, oh, well, I love my job. I love waking up in the morning and going in. I'm excited. I feel like I have a contribution to make and that I'm respected. I'm always learning new things and I get paid very well for what I do, right? So those might be things that you want and you know that you want it. So law of attraction says then be about the business of creating it starting right now because you're creating something anyway. So the frequency, the vibration is again based on the idea that it's all energy anyway. And the more I think about in a coherent manner what I'm wanting to be or what I'm wanting to do or what I'm wanting to have, the stronger my signal is. Okay. And the easier it is for, quote, the universe to organize itself to match that. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes. I guess it does, because I was just trying to, with vibration, like I understand everything being energy. That's pretty basic and common. Yeah. But the thinking of it like vibrationally or I guess energetically, that whatever you put out is going to, the different thoughts and things all could be different. That it's not, I'm Nick, I just don't have this consistent vibration. It's fluctuating all the time based on feelings, thoughts, desires, whatever it may be.
Right. And so what happens is in the old consciousness, we think we don't have any control. We think things are kind of random and we just wind up sort of hoping and wishing and praying for more good days than bad days, And in this approach, we say, well, wait a minute, if I'm really in charge, if I am really creating my own reality, whether I know it or not, and I choose to do it on purpose, well, now I am in control. This is really what I can take charge of. And it's called a law because it has to happen. So if I really do what I need to do to create a frequency, a vibration that matches what I'm wanting to be, do, or have, then it can't not happen. So we really move out of that place of disempowerment where we are at the whims apparently, of the universe and move into, no, I'm in control here, I'm in charge. Now, some of us have had a lot of reasonably good experiences deciding what we want to do, setting our sights on it, making it a goal or an objective, and just kind of making it happen, like I think what you were describing. But a lot of people are sitting in a bunch of stuff saying, how did this happen? Sure. I don't want this to continue to happen. Oh, there's a way out. And then again, we set shiny, clear intentions.
Okay.
Now, there are some mechanics involved. We start talking first in present tense language, because we are all only ever doing anything in a present moment. The universe is acting in a present moment. You and I, in our minds, can go to the past and we can go to the future, but it all happens here. So if I say I want to be happy, the universe says, yes, Stephen, you want to be happy. If I say I am happy, the universe says, yes, Stephen, you're happy. Always says yes. So we put things in present tense language. We use only positives. As I was saying earlier, we forget about how it's all going to happen, which is a very different feature from the old consciousness to the new. And unfortunately, for most of us, we need to let go of when it's all going to happen. That's hard for us in 3D. Things are very structured. We go from A to B to C to D, and we set timetables. But over here, acting as spiritual beings having human experiences, the calendar and the clock are just not that helpful. And, and we don't get to control it as much.
And that's interesting that the things that most people would want to have the control over, the how and when, you have to give up, and that you're taking in the just what you want and driving that's now what you own instead of how and when it happens.
Precisely. So what I often tell people is, even if you're in the process of setting a big giant intention where you're basically here and it's up here and there's going to be some time and space and things to do, also set some smaller intentions that you don't really care that much about. You know, play around and practice and see what it's like to go through the process that we go through here in spiritual workout world of setting shiny, clear intentions, and start to give yourself some experiences of seeing them manifest and come into real life, as we say.
Sure.
So that you can kind of get a handle on all that. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
And so we're wrapping up on this 18-minute primer. Any other questions of what we've covered so far?
No, I think I'm good, and definitely appreciate the time. I plan on dropping into Patreon tonight and for spiritual workout, and then kind of becoming a patron over the next couple of days so I can get more in depth on all of these things.
Cool. Yeah, well, we will absolutely welcome you there. And so I want to thank you for bringing this up. I think what we just discussed in this period of time, Nick, is going to be really helpful to a lot of people. And it's just very different. So I appreciate your patience and the question. And with that, I think we'll bring these 18 minutes to a close. Sound good?
All right. Sounds good, Stephen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.